The oldest soap recipe ever found was not meant for washing hands. It was made for cleaning wool. Nearly 5,000 years later, a doctor who proved that soap saved lives was institutionalized and beaten to death for saying so. And the companies that finally made soap affordable did not sell cleanliness. They had to manufacture the feeling of being dirty first. That history starts not in a bathroom, but in ancient Babylon. In ancient Babylon, a clay tablet cataloged as CBS 1341 spells out a recipe. Take sheep fat, water, and the ashes of a hardwood fire. Then boil until the mixture thickens into a soft, white mass. This was not a beauty secret or a health ritual. It was a workshop instruction. Archaeologists found these tablets among loom weights and spindle whorls, clear evidence that this early soap was meant for scouring wool, not for scrubbing skin. The process was simple, even crude, but it worked. Animal fat and ash, boiled together, became a paste that stripped grease and dirt from raw fleece, preparing it for dyeing and weaving. Meanwhile, in Rome, the business of bathing played out on a different stage. Roman bathers smeared their bodies with olive oil, then scraped away sweat and grime with a curved bronze tool called a strigil. Soap was viewed as harsh, even medicinal, something for the laundry or for the sick, but not for the daily cleansing of the body. In these early centuries, cleanliness meant scraping, not lathering. But the story of how soap moved from the workshop to the wash basin is only beginning. After the collapse of Rome's bathhouses, water itself began to feel dangerous. Medical theories in plague-ridden Europe warned that hot baths could open the body to invisible threats. The public baths, once symbols of civic life, shuttered their doors or decayed into dens of vice. Soap, already rare, became a commodity for those who could pay. In 1712, the English government imposed a tax on every pound of soap, tripling its price and turning the simple act of washing into a display of wealth. For the poor, soap was a distant luxury, and washing with plain water or herbal infusions became a matter of necessity, not choice. Cleanliness started to draw a line between classes, a privilege for the few, a risk or impossibility for the many. The idea that dirt could betray your poverty began to take hold long before science would make a new kind of cleanliness compulsory. In the 19th century, the meaning of dirt changed forever. Louis Pasteur, peering through a microscope in the 1860s, revealed a world teeming with life too small to see, bacteria that were invisible agents of decay and disease. Robert Koch followed, isolating the microbes responsible for anthrax and tuberculosis, proving that illness could be traced to something as slight as a speck on an unwashed hand. The old boundaries between filth and health collapsed. Dirt was no longer just a mark of poverty or slovenliness. It became a sign of danger, a carrier of death. Joseph Lister took these findings into the operating theater, dousing surgical tools in carbolic acid and slashing infection rates. Cleanliness was no longer about comfort or status. It was a matter of survival, and every surface, every hand, every breath could hide a threat. The unseen world had become real, and the cost of ignoring it would soon prove catastrophic. In Vienna's General Hospital, the walls of the maternity ward bore silent witness to a pattern that no one wanted to see. In the 1840s, Ignaz Semmelweis counted the bodies. On one side of the hospital, mothers died in droves, sometimes nearly 1 in 5, struck down by childbed fever within days of delivering their babies. Across the hall, in the midwives' clinic, the same disease killed only a fraction as many. The difference was so stark that women begged to be admitted to the midwives, pleading for their lives before labor even began. Semmelweis watched the routines. Medical students and doctors moved from dissecting corpses in the autopsy room straight to the delivery beds, their hands still carrying the invisible residue of death. The connection, once seen, was impossible to ignore. He ordered everyone to wash their hands with chlorinated lime before touching a patient. The effect was immediate. Mortality in the doctor's ward collapsed from nearly 18% to less than 2%, matching the survival rates of the midwives' side. The numbers were not subtle. They screamed. But the simplicity of the solution was its own curse. If death could be banished by soap and water, then the healers themselves had been the executioners all along. Semmelweis's colleagues recoiled. They mocked the idea that gentlemen's hands could carry filth. They called his findings unscientific, his methods hysterical. He published tables, pleaded with logic, but the doors closed tighter. His career unraveled. He left Vienna, drifted from post to post, and finally broke under the strain. In 1865, he died in an asylum, forgotten by the profession he tried to save. The world would not catch up to Semmelweis until decades later, when Pasteur and Lister gave germs a name and a face. But in those years, the lesson was clear. The cost of clean hands was the unbearable weight of admitting guilt, and in the end, that weight crushed the man who tried to lift it. By the late 19th century, soap had become a creature of the factory. In England, Andrew Piers's name floated on bars of transparent glycerin, promising refinement in a world where most soaps still left a greasy film. Lever Brothers, founded by William Lever, rolled out Sunlight soap by the ton, its yellow wrappers stacked in tidy, hopeful rows on grocers' shelves. Across the Atlantic, Procter & Gamble's Cincinnati plant churned out Ivory, a bar so light it could float, so white it seemed to promise not just cleanliness, but a kind of moral rescue. These companies didn't just dominate the market, they invented it. Industrial boilers and chemical vats made soap cheap, abundant, and suddenly available to millions who could never have afforded it before. But abundance carried its own problem. For the first time, there was more soap than anyone thought they needed. The old barriers, scarcity, price, even suspicion, had fallen. Now the real work began, convincing the public that they were never quite clean enough. The battleground shifted from the laboratory and the hospital to the shop window and the printed page, where persuasion would soon matter more than purity. The age of the soap barons was not about making soap. It was about manufacturing desire, and soon, manufacturing doubt. Lifebuoy's campaign against body odor began with a threat, not a promise. In the early 20th century, the word BO, short for body odor, entered American homes as a warning whispered in advertisements and splashed across print. These ads didn't just offer soap, they introduced a fear that had not existed before. One headline declared that if something isn't going right in your life, it could be BO, as if a failed job interview or a lonely evening could be traced to an invisible personal fault. The solution, of course, was Lifebuoy. Its red bar laced with carbolic acid, its scent harsh and unmistakable. The message was simple and merciless. Odor meant social exile. Shame became a sales tool, with authority figures, doctors, nurses, even fictional maids lining up to confirm the diagnosis. The campaign leaned on scientific language, warning of germs and invisible enemies, but the real contagion was anxiety. Soap was no longer just a way to remove dirt. It became a ritual of self-defense, a daily act to ward off humiliation. The bar in your bathroom was recast as a shield against rejection, and the fear it stoked would outlast any lather. The next phase of soap's story would only deepen this uneasy alliance between cleanliness and control. A bar of soap, once a simple tool, soon became something else entirely, a badge of respectability, a ticket to the right company. Early advertisers didn't just promise cleanliness, they promised moral elevation. Pear's translucent bar gleamed in shop windows, its purity marketed as proof of inner worth. Ivory floated in water and in the imagination, its 99 and 44 100% pure slogan whispering innocence. Soap was no longer just for washing away dirt, it was for washing away suspicion. Cleanliness became a sign of civilization, a way to read class and character on the surface of the skin. The message was clear. To be clean was to belong, and to belong was to be good. The bar itself became a silent judge, weighing who deserved to be welcomed and who should be kept at arm's length. In the world of soap, purity was power, and the stains were never just physical. Soap's strategy did not stay in the bathroom. By the 1930s, the same companies behind the red bars and floating cakes began underwriting American radio dramas, weaving their brands into the daily routines of millions. The phrase soap opera entered the language, a quiet nod to the way household products slipped into the background of domestic life. But the playbook, to define a problem and then sell relief, proved too effective to keep to one aisle. Soon, the same anxiety machine-powered ads for deodorant, mouthwash, cosmetics, and every product that could promise rescue from invisible threats. Today, digital feeds churn out warnings about unseen flaws and urgent fixes, each message a direct descendant of the old soap campaigns. The bar itself is almost beside the point. What endures is the method. Create the itch, then offer the scratch. Today, entire industries still thrive by inventing new ways to make us feel unclean. In 2022 alone, global soap sales topped $40 billion, driven less by dirt than by doubt. We scrub, rinse, repeat. But in the mirror, one question lingers. Whose standards are you really washing for?